And this is Will with Thrive Together Ministry, and I wanted to give some real-world advice. So we had an individual write in with a question. So these are a married couple, and the female found her husband speaking with a female that worked there at Walmart. Apparently he sees her quite a bit when he's there, as far as like she happens to work there. He runs into her, they have a conversation, and when she was with her husband, she said, "Oh, you're on your best behavior because you've got your old ball and chain." And the wife was very offended by what was said but didn't say anything. And the question is, how do I handle this? And the reason for that is she knows it's going to be a repetitive issue. This isn't a one-time incident where she has to just dispense grace and for the sake of peace, not say anything. So there is, it's very convoluted, but I want to give some real world advice. Now, when you're listening, you may or may not agree with me, and it's okay. This is just a opinion piece to try to help out with real world advice. So in that scenario, you've got two situations. You can either ignore these statements that are being made by an individual that are rude or disrespectful in your eyes, or you can address them. I highly recommend that you address them and you say something like, well, that was unkind or that was disrespectful to that individual, so they understand what they said won't be tolerated by you. It is important and it encouraged that you stand up for yourself. This not only lets your husband know that it was offensive, and if he's a good-willed man, he'll realize, oh, I probably should have been the one to step in, but it also puts the other female on notice. Now, most people that are asking for advice online are the passive type. They don't want to have to be aggressive and forward and address that. So you can change the onus of responsibility in the situation from you addressing it to your spouse addressing it. The way that works is after this particular incident, if you are aware this might in fact happen again, you're going to have a conversation with your husband. You're going to let him know, listen, when I was with you, she said you were on your best behavior because you were with your ball and chain, referring to me, and the ball and chain specifically refers to something that weighs someone down in bondage, which was disrespectful. I took it as disrespectful. And I don't want to be spoken like that ever, but especially when I'm with you in front of another female, by another female. This is not an unreasonable request, and this is something that a good-willed husband should recognize as an issue and should say, you know what, I won't allow that to ever happen again. I will make sure that I address that in the future when I see this particular person. I'll let them know that that's not okay. So now the onus of responsibility of having that confrontation is on the husband instead of you, if that's something that you're uncomfortable with. Now, the question then comes, what if I tell my husband how I feel and he dismisses it, or he's not willing to, he says, yeah, I recognize that, that's wrong, but I don't want to have that conversation. So now you got two unwilling participants. That's when you then have to set what we're going to use loosely as a boundary. You're going to need to set a boundary in this situation. You're going to need to tell him, listen, because you're not willing to have that conversation with that individual or be supportive in that situation. If I'm with you at Walmart and that particular person tries to talk to you, then I am unfortunately going to have to walk away. I can't be around an individual who's going to actively disrespect me. Now, I would hope that the husband would stand up for the wife and say, you know, hey, she's the best part about me, or she's the better half of our relationship, or something to that effect in defense of his spouse. But let's pretend, for the sake of this, that you tell him, he says, yeah, that's wrong. I can't believe she did that. I won't let that happen, or I'll make sure I say something. And you go back a week later and, you know, she's working in, let's say, jewelry, and he walks by and she says, hey, how's it going again? And he's like, hey, good. And she says, oh, look, I saw you brought your ball and chain again. And he doesn't say anything. You promptly walk off, and she says something to the effect of, oh, I can't believe, you know, she's upset or something, or that was rude, or however she responds to it. What that sends is a signal that to the husband from the wife that he didn't act appropriately in a situation through basically, some people would look at this as a silent protest. They're basically walking away and showing through your actions how you feel in a situation versus your words. So if you're not comfortable with addressing that individual, which again is the primary and best way to have a conversation with someone, is to address them as to how they make you feel, then having this silent protest where you walk off. You set a boundary where you're not going to accept to be spoken to like that. Goodwill relationships, the man will recognize his error of his way in that moment and will step back. Again, we're talking good-willed men. Now, let's pretend again he's not a very good-willed man, and again, even after you walk away in kind of a silent protest, he continues to interact with that individual. This is the point at which you say, we need mentorship, we need counseling, we need someone to interject because what I see isn't acceptable, isn't okay. And you can address this by going to other couples and letting them know. This is where accountability comes into play, letting other husbands that are good-willed know what is going on, not in the form of gossip, but in the form of accountability to say, hey, help me out here. This is a scenario. This is what's going on. Can you please talk to him and help him to understand and see kind of where I'm coming from and how I feel. So this is real world advice. I know that some people on here are going to say, wow, that's crazy. I wouldn't have done it this way or that way, but this is how I would have personally handled it. And again, ideally, if somebody said something, if a man was speaking to my wife and looked at me and said, oh, you brought your, loser ball and chain, I would have a very forward conversation with that individual in that moment. He'd know how I feel. I would still be honoring and respectful, but I'd be firm and I'd forward. And so that's the ideal, is to let someone know and give them an opportunity to reconcile or make right what they're doing wrong. Anyway, I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to give real world advice.